Hola, my lovelies. It's me, author Alexandrian Fonte, coming to you with a new review. But I don't remember what I did with my glasses. Anyway. Okay, so, today would normally be YA Sunday. And so I think I'm kind of undecided as to whether I should keep it YA Sunday or if I should incorporate other books on Sunday. Now, I actually read a YA and I really enjoyed it. Like I told you, there's some YA that I do like I love Harry Potter. I like Percy Jackson, like YA like that. I'm a little bit more skittish when it comes to YA like Twilight and anything that has to do with like teens being in intimate relationships. I'm not feeling that, and I feel like it's probably because of the fact that I am a mom. So it's just weird to me. So anyway, as I was saying, and it just kind of makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable. It's probably because I'm a mom. But anyway, so I don't really read YA. It has to be something like Harry Potter or something like that, where there's no actual relationships like that. And so I'm contemplating on whether I should leave the channel YA or if, I should incorporate other stuff into that day as well. So, but for today, we're going to go YA because I actually did read a YA. So now, I actually picked this book myself. This wasn't one that Jen sent to me. And it was more or less because when I looked online and I saw some of the reviews for it, I kind of thought they were mean. Like some of the stuff that some of the readers said about the author and the actual writing of the book. And so I just thought it was, excuse me, kind of rude, so I wanted to read it myself. One reader actually gave her a 1 star because she had an issue with the fact that she said that the altitude in Seattle or Idaho was higher than Colorado. She said Seattle, like the reader said Seattle, but there's nowhere I read in the book that said Seattle. It said Colorado. So I'm kind of not sure where she got that, the reader got that from anyway. But the whole point is that the reader gave her 1 star because of the fact that she said the altitude, sorry. The altitude was higher in Idaho than it was in Seattle. Now, I never read that in the book. I did read that she said the altitude was higher in Colorado. I mean, in Idaho than it was in Colorado, but I don't even know why that would require a 1 star. That was just really weird to me why she would star the book 1 star for that. But anyway, I'm harping. So I decided to read the book for myself. So tonight's author she is an indie author as well. And just 1 second. Tonight's author is Natasha Brown, and she is a USA Today best-selling author, and the book is called Hedgling, the Shapeshifter Chronicles, and I will probably more than likely read book 2 because I really enjoyed this book. And here is the awesome cover. And can you see the feathers there? So when I saw that, it automatically made me think native, and I was correct in thinking that. So now, so basically, my notes, of course. Just 1 second. Now, okay, so the book opens with Anna is the main female character. And then Chance is the main teen character. And so basically, Anna has a heart problem. She has heart disease. She's 17. She's a senior in high school, and she has an irregular heart. Basically, her heart is hardening, and the ventricles, this kind of stuff doesn't work. This was kind of like heartening for me because my son has a heart issue as well. He has an enlarged heart, and so instead of this, it might go. The rhythm is off, and so we have to take him. He has to have checkups, yearly checkups. He's doing much better because he is 23 now, but when he was a teen, I like felt for the mom in this book. His wasn't like hers, as bad as hers, but like I had to watch what he did, and I had to make sure like he was always on point, not doing stuff that he shouldn't have been doing. Cause like, sorry, my phone rang. So I had to make sure like, he wasn't doing stuff that he wasn't supposed to be doing. And this was really, really hard on him because of the fact that he was a skater. He's a skateboarder. He wanted to be signed. He wanted to do all of that stuff. And then when he turned, 16, the doctors were like, I'm sorry, you can't. And so he's like, really? And so skating was like a coping mechanism for him as well, because not only did he have the heart issue, but he's also dyslexic, so it was like a coping thing for him, the skating. And then now they're saying, oh, you can't. So I really felt for the character of this book, because she wants to be a normal teenager, and unfortunately she's not. And so her mom gets fired from her job. And this is where I'm not sure where. I don't remember reading Seattle, because I believe that the characters were in Colorado. So I don't remember the Seattle part. But anyway, so her mom gets fired from her job. And so they basically pack up and move back to the mom's hometown, which is Idaho. And so basically the mom's mom passed away, and so they wanted to it's like you have a place to go, even though like the mom was fired and she had to give up her apartment and all that kind of stuff. The cool thing about it was, even though it's sad that the mom died, they did have a place to go, and I kind of like that, because it just gives you like a nest egg or whatever. And so her sister gets her a job. The mom's sister gets her a job in their hometown at the bank, the sister Tara. And so they basically welcome them in. They, air out, clean up the grandma's house because she passed. So it's her house, and she left it to Melissa, which is Anna's mom. And then she has her sister Eva. And so Eva is like 12 and she's like a middle schooler. And so they have a really good relationship. And she, like, when Anna has to go for like, checkups at the doctor and stuff, Eva's like nervous and she's afraid because, she knows that there's something wrong with her sister's heart. And so basically she goes to school. She like gets enrolled into the new high school. And so, she happens to go into this one classroom, and of course, there comes the hot, broody teenage boy. And so, basically she automatically thinks he's handsome, but she's like, no, I don't have time for this. I have too much, craziness going on in my life. So I don't have time for boys. And then he thinks she's like beautiful. But he's like, no, I have too much stuff going on in my life, so I don't have time for this. And so it's funny because they wind up being friends anyway. And so then they start hanging out because they both love nature. They just have this connection, that automatically connects them. And it's not about, and what I really liked about the book was the purity, because there was no, like, I'll talk about that when I'm finished, but like there was no like social media, that kind of stuff. Like they would text back and forth between each other, and then they became really good friends, and they started going on nature walks, and they would go into And then so basically they started falling in love with each other. But the point is that Anna was afraid to tell him that she had this heart problem, because the last time, like, the reason why the mom moved, one of the really good reasons why the altitude change would help her, like, prolong living. And then because I remember the person in the book was like, that's not true, who wrote the review, but who cares? Okay, it worked for the damn book. And so basically that would help her to, it would help to prolong her life. She would be a little bit more comfortable. Doesn't mean that she would live, but she would be a little bit more comfortable, and it was closer to a specialist that she felt like could do her daughter better justice. And so like she went to the doctor, and then the doctor gave them bad news, that even though the altitude, all of that stuff was better for her, her issue was still progressing. And so the medication that she was taking, it wasn't really helping anymore. And so they felt like the next thing that would happen would be that if it got any worse, she would need to be on a transplant list. And so her hanging around with Chance all the time, he started noticing little things like, when they went on nature walks, she would, like, literally have to stop and take a breath. And then he noticed that there was always a purple tint to her lips, and then her fingernails, instead of being pink, they always had that mauve tint. And so he knew something was wrong. And so when he introduced her to his parents, his mother is a nurse. And so it doesn't really say it, but I'm sure he went home and he asked his mom about it, because it's like right after that, he starts talking about all the stuff that he's seen, going on with her. And so this is like months later. And then basically she's like, she breaks down one night because she's like, I'm in love with him, but I don't want to have to tell him this, because the last little jerk off she dated, he found out she had a heart problem and he bailed. He was like, that was too much stress for him. He couldn't do that. And so he pretty much left her. And then the fact that when she started her medical treatments when she was younger, excuse me, her mom and her father got a divorce. And so all of this time she thought it was her fault. So she blamed herself. But her mother was like, no, it's not. She finally told her, it's not your fault. We got married young. We probably never should have been together. But he was never mature enough to be a parent in the first place. So it's not just the fact that you were sick. It was the fact that he didn't want to have a wife and kids, whether you were sick or well, So that's one of her issues. She has an abandonment issue. So she doesn't want to tell him that she has this heart problem, because she feels like she's already in love with him. And if she tells him that she has this problem, then of course he's going to bail like the last little douchebag did. And so she gets to the point where she has to go back to the doctor. And so she agrees, because her mom is like, sweetie, I know you have feelings for him and all this stuff, but you really need to tell him the truth. And so finally she's like, okay, she goes back to the doctor, and the diagnosis is not good. And so finally she realizes that she has to tell him. And so during these nature walks that she takes on her own, or she like has this rock that she sits on, that she goes for her solace, like every day after school. She had an issue with going to school because of the fact that people would laugh, she just had this feeling like they were going to talk about her and all this stuff. And she winds up meeting Laura, which becomes like a really good friend to her. And the first day of school, she was pretty much like, oh, do you know anyone here? And so, Anna was like, no. And then so Lauren was like, oh, well, come sit with us. And so she thought maybe she was just trying to be, like polite to her. And so when lunch came, she actually walked out. And then Lauren was like, oh, and so she was like, oh, wow, okay, she was serious. And so they became friends. And then now Chase would hang out with them, and they would all sit under the trees and stuff. And so, like, that Chase is having like whatever own issues of his own through through the book because, like the friends that he used to hang out with, he doesn't want to hang out with them anymore. And so he thinks like they're a bunch of idiots because basically he's growing up. And so the stuff that they do, the banter, all that stuff, it's annoying to him. So he starts hanging out with Anna and her group of girlfriends. And so the guy friends, of course, how D-bags they are. And so, so then, so basically, she finally decides to tell him. And then when she tells him, she automatically assumes that, he's going to bail like the other little douchebag did. I'm going to keep calling him a douchebag because he was. And so she automatically assumes that he's going to bail like he did. And then he's like, no. And he basically tells her that he loves her. And then he's like, but I have something to tell you as well. And so when she would take these little siestas on, like, she has this like big rock that's behind her house, and she goes to this rock because it's like solace. She's like a very, very keen nature person. And so she goes to this little rock, and like she would see animals like in the woodlands behind her house. Like one day she saw a fox, and like when she first got to the house, she saw a fox, and she was like, what the heck? And then maybe like a week later, she saw this fox again. And she thought it was really strange because the fox had on a necklace. So she was like, wait a minute, my eyes must be playing tricks on me. What was a fox doing wearing a necklace, right? And then then she sees an owl, like an owl clumsily trying to fly, and it lands on a perch and it just watches her. And so she's like feeling so much solace in the fact that, I guess like Snow White, all of these woodland creatures are just, basically enveloping her and being around. And so it gives her like solace that, she feels good and it's nice. And so then it's like, finally, he's like, yeah, I have something to tell you too. And it was really cute because the fox was him. The owl was him. Because once he realized that there was something wrong with her by the tint to her lips and like her fingertips, he knew she wasn't okay. Even if like this was way before she even told him that she had the heart problem. He knew she wasn't okay. And so he would show up to watch her because he knew she went to this rock all the time. So it was his way of like protecting her. And then finally he has to tell her because she goes to his house, and because she started thinking about the fact that she saw this fox with with like a necklace and all this kind of stuff. The owl had the same looking necklace on, and so she was like, she got upset because she thought like maybe he was playing a prank on her. And so she finally confronts him. But when she does, she goes to his house, and he's in the middle of trying to shift into a cougar. And so she hears the lion or the cougar, and she thinks like she knows he's out there, and he goes trekking with like his grandfather. So she freaks out and she starts running, and she tries to warn them when technically there's nothing really wrong with him. She doesn't know at the time that that's him. And so she tries to run because she's so like afraid for him, and she winds up jacking herself up basically. And so he had to get her to the hospital. So he shifted into a horse, which I thought was pretty cool. And so basically when she woke up in the hospital, like stuff started coming back to her, and the fact that she heard the cougar, and then when she got there, he like didn't have a shirt on, and then so finally she's like, okay, tell me the truth. And so he tells her that he's a shifter. And so that's where I'm going to stop because I don't want to ruin the rest of the book for you. I want you to read it yourself. Now, if I had to say anything that was wrong with this book, I would say I didn't like the way that it ended. But she gets like, I forgive her because she put the beginning of the next book right there. So you got the cliffhanger from the first book, and so you're automatically like, oh, what? You're just like, and then you flip the page and you're like, oh, okay. here's the first part of that. So you get to read the first part of which technically is the spot where she stopped. Now, this kind of cliffhanger, I'm okay with. I'm cool with because she did, even though she hung the book at a like, you know, you flip 2 pages and you start reading from the second book and it lets you know what happened right there. So I feel like that's okay. Even though it's a cliffhanger, you're still getting, you're not left with that foul taste in your mouth where you just want to choke the author out because you're like, seriously, you just slapped this book right here. You should be slapped. So it's cool because she didn't. I like the fact that the book was purity. And when I say purity, I mean like, I'm not saying, let's see, how can I say this? Maybe like social purity. You know what I'm saying? There was no Facebook in this book. There was no Snapchat. There was no Instagram. There was no Face of Time, whatever you want to call them. There was none of that in here, in this book. These kids were communing with nature. And the fact that she loved nature and he loved nature as well. Well, obviously, because of what he is. But at the time, she didn't know that. And like, there is some cell phone, interaction because, come on, they're teenagers. But I like the fact that like he did research on the internet for actual research. And so not saying that to be like the author's all prissy. No, because she's not. I just like the purity of the book that, there was no distractions like that. And like, I don't have anything against a book that has that kind of stuff in it. Because some might have internet and, I don't have like Snapchat and that kind of stuff because that's not my cup, but that's not my thing. That's their generation. And I'm okay with that. But I do like the fact that these kids communed in the outdoors, which is what I used to do when I was a kid. My brothers and I, or my friends and I, we would go on nature walks. It's like, the 80s were like an awesome time for that. It was like, you were a kid being a kid. And I know the times are different. And so I try to remember that because I wish my kids could have experienced some of the stuff that I did when I was a teenager. I surfed, I rode motorcycles, I windsurfed, I rode ATVs, dirt bikes. I was like the dirt bike champion on my block. I went down 2 flights of stairs on a pogo stick. I still have the scar under my chin because my brother broke his handlebars and then they double dog dared me. They dared me, so I jumped down 2 flights of stairs, and then when I hit the bottom, the pogo stick slid out like that, and so it stabbed me like right there. But I've had broken bones. I've broken my collarbone, my wrist. My elbow, my wrist, my ankle, my toes. I've had stitches up the yang, but that was all because you were outside. You were doing those things that, kids do. And I feel really sorry that kids can't do that nowadays because there's so much joy in that. Just riding your bike down the street or riding your bike for like 5 blocks to your friend's house. Kids can't really do that today because there's so much stranger danger. But I like the pristineness of the book. It was very nostalgic, and it reminded me of what it was like when I was a kid. And to be able to just go into the woods and take a trek and not have to worry about some pervert or pedophile in the woods waiting for you. So I like that. And then I like the interaction between the characters in the book. It was very family oriented. There was no like teen sex. So this is a I like to call these sweet romances because there were a couple of kisses exchanged between the two main characters. Now, I'm not saying that the second book doesn't have that because I don't know. I didn't read it. And not to mention she had a heart problem. So it's not like she could have did anything anyway. Did anyone watch that new show? It's called, I forget what it was called. I watched the first series. It was crazy. She had this same kind of heart problem, and she was like, she just turned 18. And then her best, like, this girl got killed, and then she went to do like, the first time with her boyfriend, and she had a heart attack. And so they rushed her to the hospital. She was basically, she was part of a transplant recipient's list as well. And then they gave her the heart. Anyway, and I won't mention that. That's a show that you guys should watch. It's really good. There's some freaky stuff going on with it too. But anyway, and so the fact that she, so she couldn't do that. This character Anna, she couldn't do that kind of stuff because of the fact that she did have the heart problem. So I have no clue what's in book two. They actually might. They might, be more intimate. Both of the characters are 18, so it's not like they're underage. So if she took it there for the second book, it's plausible because of the fact that they are both 18. And so I just really like this book. If I had to start this book, I would start this book 4 stars, 4.5 star. Actually, yeah, I would start 4.5 stars because it was that good. It kept me engrossed. I kept flipping the pages, wanting to know what was going to happen. And then especially after after he tells her what he actually is. So I really like that. And it really kept me engrossed. And I like the entire book. I like the scheme of it. I like the build up, the world, it's very native. And I have native heritage. My grandmother is on my mom's side is half Pawnee, and then my great great grandmother is my great great grandfather is Blackfoot. So and then my ex-husband, his family is they're native, they're Cherokee and Navajo, I believe it is. And so we have a lot of native ancestry. And so I really like the book because you could just feel it in the book. The world building that she did, and then the grandfather, him imparting his wisdom, and then being able to know all of this stuff about a shapeshifter. And I like the fact that she differentiated. She explained the shapeshifter because there's two. There's a shapeshifter and then there's a skinwalker. So I was surprised that since she used the native, she didn't use skinwalker. So that's the only thing that was a little weird to me, is because most native tribes, they use the term skinwalker and they describe the skinwalker instead of the shapeshifter. So a little bit different. But anyway, and so I did find some typos, because remember, this is an honest channel. I did find some typos, but they weren't crazy enough to where they took you out of the story. It was little things like if she meant to say eyes, it might have came out eye. Like his eye was on her, which technically would sound okay, but grammatically I don't believe, because you have two eyes, so it would need to be plural. As far as grammatically, I believe. It's been a while since I've taught English. But it was little things like that it wasn't enough to where it would throw you out of the story and you'd be like, what the hell? And you have to read it over. No, your eye would just go on past that because your brain already knew what it was supposed to be. And so, like I said, this book gets a 4.5 star, and I really enjoyed it. And I really want you guys to go out and get this book if you are a YA lover, because this book, one, not only is it good and engaging and kept me in the story, it's only, actually, no, it's a freebie. Yeah, it's a freebie. And that's book 1. And this book has 4 books to it. Ooh, I may read I might finish them. I might finish the whole series because, like I said, I do like YA. If I don't have to deal with that stuff, or like if I know it's in the book, I'm okay. But it's not like described like how if I were reading like an adult book, then I'm totally cool with that, because SK's book, what the 3 of them do at the end of the book, it's totally fine, because SK doesn't describe what they did. They did something, little naughty things, because SK's is a reverse harem. Chosen by Two, the Chronicles of Security, it's a reverse harem. When her thing is she has to choose between these 2 boys, but she loves them both. So that's a reverse harem. So, but she doesn't put that in the book. She lets you use your imagination if you're a teen. And she lets me chop off my imagination. And so, basically, because she doesn't tell me what actually happened. And so, I'm cool with that. Like, I'm hoping, like, the next book she doesn't either, because if she does, I might not read it. Or if it's implied and I don't have to read it between the pages of the book, then I would be totally cool with that. I think I have lipstick on my teeth. Sorry. But and so I'm totally cool with that. And so this series has 4 books to it. The first one is Hedgling, the second one is Prodigy, the third one is Emergent, and then the last one is Ascension. So basically more, I think it's cute. You get to see this character's face more and more for each book. And so this was a good book. It's 244 pages, so it is an actual read. It's a book, and it's a 4-book series. So it's called Fledgling, the Shapeshifter Chronicles. There's 4 books in it. The first book is free. You can read it on Amazon for free. And so let me show you the cover one more time. This is the cover. The first book is called Hedgling, the Shapeshifter Chronicles, and it's by author Natasha Brown, and she is a USA Today best-selling author. So I want you guys to go out and get this book because it was really good. I'm an adult and I liked it. Alrighty, so now tomorrow we will be reading, excuse me. Tomorrow we will be reading Blood Magic. I was gonna read I had already started reading this book myself, and I was reading it on Thursday, but then I forgot that wasn't the day for Thursday. So that's why we did Lexi Thames, because Thursdays is our mainstream Caucasian author. So this book is an IR, and not to mention it is a interracial. So now I believe she is. Let me check just to make sure, because if she's not, then we won't be reading her. So I have to look it up and see. I tried, like, if I download anything on my own, I try to, yes, she is. Okay, so I was right. So now, we will be reading her tomorrow, and tomorrow is Monday. I'm not happy that tomorrow's Monday, but at least on the sad side, I don't have to go to work. I'm gonna have to start doing exercise at home because I can't go to the gym anymore, and I don't want to gain any more weight, but I can't starve myself either. I mean, I guess I could, but I don't want to. I like food. So anyway, so now tomorrow, this is who we will be reading. I don't know why that sentence always trips me up. And so it's called Blood Magic, the Bree Sumner Chronicles, Book 1 by S.A. Richards. I love this freaking cover. It is so cool. And this beautiful woman of color. This is an IR. It's a BW. WM, which means black woman, white man. And look at that. That's a beautiful black woman on this cover. So this is who we will be reading tomorrow. And that's pretty much it. You guys know I love you. Stay safe out there. Make sure you are keeping yourself safe in this coronavirus era. Washing your hands constantly. Making your face mask. The CDC has said that you need to be wearing a face mask when you go out. You don't have to go buy the M9 ones, the ones that are, taken away from the doctors and nurses and healthcare people. You don't have to buy those, but the little chulitas are on the corner with them. You better go out and get you one. I'm getting 4 tomorrow. I passed her yesterday. I was going to get some, but I forgot to get change from, I only have my bank card with me, and I forgot to get some actual change to buy them from her. And so basically, my people so resourceful. So basically, they're selling every corner over by my house. They're selling them, so I will be getting some tomorrow because I have one of the actual ones, but I don't like that one. And then not to mention, it's if I decide to wear any cover up or anything like that, and then I have to go out from doing the videos, if I decided to do the video in the morning and I go out, I have to put the mask on, and then it gets makeup all over itself. So yeah, so I'm liking the cloth ones because the cloth ones I could just wash it out and then hang it up, whereas the other ones you can't. They have to be like sterile, like seriously sterilized. And so because of the fact that it's a respiratory disease and the spray and the droplets, they're saying now that you could just be talking to somebody and just the regular stuff coming from your mouth and you're having a conversation with someone could actually cause if you are a carrier, could cause them to get the coronavirus. So you guys be safe out there. And that's pretty much peace and love. I will see you guys tomorrow. Make sure you subscribe. Click that little button down there so you will subscribe to our channel if you are new. If you are an oldie but a goodie, make sure you tell your friends and family to come over and subscribe to our channel and watch your videos. Also, authors, remember, these are your fellow authors. Watch their videos as well. Buy their books. Pay it forward. So we can all benefit from this genre, especially now that, people aren't working. People are at home constantly at all times. They're looking for books. They're looking for things to pretty much, keep their time together. So make sure you are spreading the word about your video or their video. And that's pretty much it. I will see you guys tomorrow. Peace and love.